The space above Valos Prime burned with weapons fire. Commander Yoon watched from the bridge of his flagship as another alien vessel exploded in the distance. The Vralith were winning just as they always did these days. The insect-like Krell ships fell back, their formations breaking apart under the relentless assault. "Sir, the Coalition forces are requesting emergency evacuation support," Sora said from her station. Her fingers moved across the communications panel with practiced ease. Yoon nodded slowly. For 300 years, humanity had watched from the shadows. They had monitored every conflict, every war, every desperate plea for help. And for 300 years, they had stayed hidden. But not today. "Mira, status on the fighter wings?" Yoon asked. Captain Mira sat in the ready room below, her helmet already on. "All squadrons ready for launch, Commander. Just give us the word." Yoon looked at the tactical display. 12 Vralith warships against 5 Coalition vessels. The numbers were bad. The Coalition was losing badly. In another 10 minutes, the evacuation transports would be destroyed and millions of civilians would die. "Admiral Jin, are we committed to this?" Yoon asked quietly. The old admiral stood beside him, his weathered face calm. "We've been hiding long enough, Commander. It's time the galaxy remembered us." Yoon took a deep breath. 3 centuries of preparation came down to this moment. "All ships drop quantum screens. Prepare to engage." The bridge crew moved with swift efficiency. These were men and women born in exile, trained for a war they thought might never come. But they were ready. "Quantum drive disengaging in 3, 2, 1, the helmsman called out. Reality twisted. The human fleet dropped out of quantum space directly above Valos Prime. 7 warships materialized where empty space had been seconds before. They were old vessels, scarred from centuries of use, but they bristled with weapons. On the Coalition flagship, alarms blared. The Krell commander's antennae twitched in confusion. His tactical officer clicked rapidly in their native language. "Unknown vessels detected. Energy signatures match nothing in our database." "Vralith reinforcements?" the commander asked. "No, sir. These ships are ancient. The design is from the old archives." Before anyone could respond, Sora's voice cut through every communication channel in the system. She spoke in the old galactic common tongue, a language not used in standard broadcasts for centuries. "Coalition forces, this is the human expeditionary fleet. Stand down and let us work." Silence fell across the battlefield. On a dozen bridges, alien commanders stared at their screens in disbelief. Humans were myths, stories told to young cadets about legendary warriors who vanished before the current generation was born. The Krell commander's translator struggled with the old language. "That's impossible. Humans don't exist anymore," but the Vralith knew better. Their ships immediately changed formation, pulling back from the Coalition vessels. Lord Thane, commanding the Vralith assault fleet, felt something he rarely experienced. Fear. "All ships retreat to secondary positions," he ordered. "Those are human vessels." "Actual human vessels!" His officers hesitated. "Sir, humans are extinct." "These must be fake signals. I've seen the old records," Thane shouted. "My grandfather fought them in the last war." "Retreat now." But he was too slow. Mira's fighter squadron launched from the human carriers, their small craft moving with incredible speed. They used a combat formation that Coalition pilots learned about in history classes, but never saw in practice. The split-wing maneuver, created by humans during their golden age of warfare. Mira's voice crackled over the tactical net. "Red Squadron, follow my lead. Let's show these monsters we remember how to fight." Her fighters dove into the Vralith formation like knives through paper. Coalition pilots watched in amazement as the human craft performed maneuvers that should have killed the pilots from the acceleration forces alone. But humans, it seemed, could take punishment that would knock other species unconscious. "How are they pulling those turns?" a young Krell pilot whispered. His squadron leader's voice was filled with awe. "Because they're human. By the stars, they're actually human." Yoon's flagship moved forward, its main weapons charging. Engineer Hana worked frantically in the engine room, pushing the old reactors to their limits. "Commander, weapons are at full power," she reported. "But I can't guarantee they'll hold for more than 3 volleys." "3 will be enough," Yoon replied. The human warships opened fire. Their weapons were different from modern Coalition technology, older but somehow more brutal. They didn't use fancy particle beams or quantum missiles. They used magnetically accelerated tungsten rods and high-yield plasma charges. Simple weapons, but devastatingly effective. A Vralith cruiser took a direct hit. Its shields collapsed instantly, and the hull buckled under the impact. The ship didn't explode gracefully like in coalition battles. It was torn apart, debris spinning off in all directions. Dr. Sung watched from the science station, recording everything. His job was to document this moment, humanity's return to the galactic stage. But he also felt the weight of what they were doing. Violence, even justified violence, came with a cost. "Commander, Vralith forces are breaking formation," Sora reported. "They're trying to retreat." "Don't let them," Yoon ordered coldly. "If even one ship escapes, they'll warn the Dominion. We need to maintain surprise for as long as possible." Admiral Jin placed a hand on Yoon's shoulder. "Easy, Commander. We're not here to become monsters again." Yoon paused, then nodded. "You're right. Mira, disable their engines, but let them limp home. We want them to spread the word." "Understood," Mira replied. Her squadron shifted tactics, targeting drive systems instead of going for kills. Within 20 minutes, the battle was over. Half the Vralith fleet was destroyed. The rest fled with crippled ships, their crews traumatized by the encounter. The coalition forces simply floated in space, too shocked to move. The Krell commander finally found his voice. "Human ships, this is Coalition Defense Force Commander Rix. We don't understand. Your species disappeared 3 centuries ago. Everyone said you were extinct." Yoon's face appeared on the coalition screens. The alien saw a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a determined expression. He looked ordinary, unremarkable. But there was something in his gaze that made them understand why humans had become legends. "Commander Rix, we were never extinct," Yoon said simply. "We were waiting, and now we've returned." Rix's antennae drooped in confusion and relief. Why come back now?" Admiral Jin stepped into view beside Yoon. "Because someone needs to remind the Vralith why they learned to fear us. And because innocent people are dying. We couldn't stand by anymore." On Valos Prime below, millions of civilians watched the sky. They saw human ships hovering above their world, protecting them from an enemy that had seemed unstoppable moments before. Parents held their children, elderly aliens wept with relief, and everyone wondered the same thing. Were humans saviors or something more dangerous? In the fleet, Hana shut down the overworked reactors, allowing them to cool. Mira guided her battered fighter back to the carrier, exhausted but alive. Sora prepared reports that would be sent across the entire galaxy, and Dr. Sung continued recording, knowing that this day would be studied by historians for centuries to come. Yoon stood on the bridge, looking at the damaged coalition ships and the fleeing Vralith vessels. He felt the weight of command, the burden of bringing humanity back into a galaxy that had forgotten them. "Sora, send a message to Fleet Command in the Gray Expanse," he said quietly. "Tell them we've made contact. Tell them the legend is now reality." "Yes, sir," Sora replied. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had returned to the stars, and everyone, friend and enemy alike, would have to face what that meant. News of humanity's return spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every major civilization knew that humans still existed. Within days, everyone had an opinion about what it meant. Admiral Jin stood before the Coalition High Council on Nexus 7 station. The council chamber was vast, designed to accommodate dozens of different species. Crystalline Telvar delegates reflected light from every angle. Gaseous Nethan representatives floated in containment spheres. The insect-like Krell clicked and chittered among themselves. "Admiral Jin, you must understand our confusion," Council Speaker Voss said. The elderly Telvar's crystalline body pulsed with different colors indicating stress. "For 300 years we believed humanity was extinct. Now you appear with a military fleet, claiming you've been hiding all this time. We need answers." Jin nodded slowly. He had prepared for this moment for decades. "I understand your concern, Speaker. The truth is both simple and complicated. Humanity didn't go extinct. We chose to leave." Murmurs filled the chamber. A Krell counselor raised her foreleg. "Why would an entire species simply leave? That makes no sense." Dr. Sung stepped forward, carrying a data tablet. He was younger than Jin, but had spent his entire life studying the Exodus. 3 centuries ago, humanity fought the first Vralith War. We were losing badly. Our colonies were burning, our fleets were destroyed, and our homeworld was under threat. He activated a holographic display showing old battle footage. The counselors watched as human ships fought desperately against overwhelming Vralith forces. They saw planets being bombarded, civilian transports destroyed, Entire worlds going dark. We had two choices. Sung continued. We could fight until every last human was dead, taking much of the galaxy with us. Or we could disappear, give the galaxy peace, and prepare for the day when the Vralith returned. So you ran away, a Nethin counselor said. Their voice translated from complex gas emissions. Jin's expression hardened. We made a choice to prevent galactic genocide. In our final days before the Exodus, we had developed weapons that could crack planets, bioweapons that could sterilize entire star systems. We could have unleashed them. Instead, we chose exile. The council chamber fell silent. The implications were clear. Humanity could have destroyed everything but chose not to. That made them either noble or terrifying, depending on one's perspective. Where did you go? Speaker Voss asked quietly. The gray expanse, Sung replied. Beyond charted space, in a region your sensors can't penetrate. We built hidden colonies, underground cities, orbital habitats. We survived, grew, and prepared. Prepared for what? Another counselor demanded. For the Vralith to return, Jin said. Because we knew they would. It's their nature. They conquer, they expand, they destroy. And without humanity to stop them, we knew they'd eventually threaten the rest of you. Meanwhile, across the galaxy in Vralith space, Lord Thane delivered his report to the Dominion Supreme Commander. The council room was darker than coalition chambers built for a species that preferred shadows. Humans, the Supreme Commander said, his voice dripping with contempt. You're certain? I watched their ships with my own eyes, Thane replied. They used old human tactics, old human weapons, and they fought with the same cursed efficiency that destroyed our ancestors. An elderly Vralith advisor pulled up ancient records. The council must understand what humans represent. 3 centuries ago, they nearly destroyed the Dominion. They didn't fight like other species. They didn't surrender when defeat was certain. They adapted, improvised, and turned our own strategies against us. Images appeared on the screens, old battles where human forces had achieved impossible victories. One showed a single human cruiser ramming a Vralith dreadnought, destroying both ships but saving a colony below. Another showed human marines boarding a Vralith station and fighting for 3 days without rest or reinforcement. They're animals, Thane muttered. They fight without honor, without rules. No, the Supreme Commander corrected. They fight to win. That's what makes them dangerous. They don't care about glory or tradition. They care about results. Back on Nexus 7, Mira and Hana worked in one of the station's repair bays. They had been assigned to help upgrade coalition fighters with human technology. It wasn't going well. I don't understand, a young Krell engineer said, examining a human fighter's control system. These acceleration compensators are completely inadequate. Your pilots would black out at these G-forces, Mira smiled. We do black out sometimes. But human pilots train to function even when blood flow to the brain is reduced. We can handle more punishment than most species. The Krell engineer's antennae drooped in disbelief. That's insane. Why would you design systems that hurt your own pilots? Hana shrugged while calibrating a weapon system. Because in combat, the pilot who can turn sharper wins. We accept the pain as part of the job. A Telvar technician examined the human weapons. These are remarkably simple, almost primitive compared to our particle beam technology. Simple means reliable, Hana explained. In a long campaign, fancy weapons break down. Our tungsten rods never jam, never need calibration, and never run out of fuel. Load them and fire. The coalition engineers exchanged worried looks. They were beginning to understand that humans didn't just fight differently, they thought differently. Where coalition species tried to minimize casualties and fight honorably, humans focused purely on effectiveness. Sora entered the bay, looking troubled. Mira, Hana, we have a problem. Intelligence just intercepted Vralith communications. They're mobilizing a massive fleet. How massive? Mira asked. Bigger than anything seen since the old wars. Lord Thane convinced his superiors that humanity poses an existential threat. They're gathering every available warship. Hana's face went pale. They're going to hit the Coalition core worlds. Exactly, Sora confirmed. And they're planning to do it within days, not weeks. They want to destroy the Coalition before we can fully integrate our forces. Back in the council chamber, Admiral Jin received the same intelligence. He looked at the data with grim acceptance. This is what we feared. The Vralith learned from last time. They won't give us time to prepare. What do we do? Speaker Voss asked. Our fleets can't possibly stop a force that size, even with your help. Commander Yoon, who had joined the council meeting, studied the tactical displays. We split our forces. Human battle groups will embed with coalition fleets to strengthen your defenses. It won't stop them, but it will slow them down. And then what? A Krell counselor demanded. We just die slower? Dr. Sung looked at Admiral Jin, who nodded slightly. Sung cleared his throat. There's something we haven't told you about humanity's exile. The Gray Expanse isn't just where we hid. It's where we built our real strength. The 7 ships you've seen? That's our expeditionary force. The fleet that stayed behind is much larger. The council chamber erupted in noise. Multiple species tried to speak at once, their translators creating a cacophony of confusion and anger. You have more ships and didn't tell us? Speaker Voss demanded, their crystalline body flashing red with anger. We needed to be sure you could be trusted, Jin replied calmly. 300 years ago, some coalition species helped the Vralith hunt us. We had to verify that you'd actually stand with us this time. And now? Voss asked. Now we know you will, Yoon said. Because you don't have a choice. The Vralith are coming for all of us. Mira received orders to prepare her squadron for extended combat operations. As she walked through the fighter bay, she passed coalition pilots who stared at her with a mixture of respect and fear. She understood. Humanity's reputation preceded them, and not all of it was positive. A young Krell pilot approached her nervously. Captain Mira, is it true what they say? That humans never surrender? Mira considered the question. We surrender when it makes tactical sense. But we don't give up just because the odds are bad. If there's a chance to win, we take it. No matter the cost, the Krell pilot nodded slowly. I think I'm starting to understand why the Vralith fear you. That evening, the human command staff gathered in their quarters. They were alone, away from coalition ears. This is going to get bad, Hana said quietly. The Vralith aren't holding back this time. No, Jin agreed. They're scared. And scared enemies are the most dangerous. Yoon looked at his team, these people he'd served with for years. We knew this day might come. We trained for it. We're ready. Are we ready to lose people? Dr. Sung asked. Because we will. Humans will die in this war. Maybe a lot of them. Silence filled the room. Finally, Mira spoke. My grandfather used to tell me about the first exodus. He said the hardest part wasn't leaving. It was knowing that by leaving we were abandoning others to face the Vralith alone. We've lived with that guilt for 300 years. She stood up, her expression determined. So yes, we'll lose people. But at least this time we're dying for something that matters. We're protecting those who can't protect themselves. Admiral Jin nodded. Well said. Now get some rest, all of you. The Vralith will be here soon. And when they arrive, the galaxy will see what happens when humans actually fight for something they believe in. As they left, Sora remained behind, looking at the star charts. The Vralith fleet was massive, their trajectory clear. They were heading for Sanctum Prime, the Coalition's capital world. The Triton belt stretched across space like a wound. Thousands of mining platforms floated among the asteroids, each one home to hundreds of workers. When the Vralith vanguard arrived, most of the miners were still on shift, drilling deep into rock looking for rare metals. Commander Yoon split the human fleet exactly as planned. 3 ships remained with the main coalition force at Sanctum Prime. The other 4 spread out across the outer rim, each one commanding a mixed human coalition battle group. It was a dangerous strategy, spreading their limited forces thin, but it was the only way to cover enough territory. Captain Mira led her squadron toward the Triton belt with a wing of Krell fighters following her. The insect-like pilot struggled to match her speed, but they were learning. On the flight deck, she checked her systems one more time. Red leader to all fighters, we have multiple Vralith signatures entering the belt. Looks like a raiding force, probably 20 ships, she reported. A Krell pilot's voice crackled over the channel. 20 ships against R-12? Those are bad numbers. Only if you fight fair, Mira replied. We're not going to fight fair. She dove into the asteroid field at a speed that made the coalition pilots gasp. Humans had better reflexes, faster reaction times. What looked suicidal to other species was just aggressive flying to her. The Vralith ships followed, confident in their superior numbers. Split into 3 groups, Mira ordered. Use the asteroids as cover. Make them work for every shot. The battle became a deadly game of hide-and-seek. Human fighters would appear from behind an asteroid, fire a burst of tungsten rounds, then disappear before the Vralith could target them. The Krell pilots watched and learned, copying the tactics. A young Krell named Sek found himself separated from his wing. 3 Vralith fighters closed in on him. He was preparing to eject when Mira's voice cut through his panic. "Sek, hard left now." He turned without thinking. Mira's fighter screamed past him, firing at impossible angles. 2 Vralith fighters exploded. The third tried to flee, but a Krell pilot had learned enough to finish it off. "Thanks, Captain," Sek gasped. "Stay with your wing," Mira replied. "And good job on that last kill." Back at Sanctum Prime, Engineer Hana worked in the station's main engineering bay. She had a problem. The Coalition shield generators used completely different technology than human systems. Trying to upgrade them was like trying to make a fish breathe air. "This isn't working," she muttered, examining the burned-out components of a Telvar shield emitter. A Telvar engineer approached, their crystalline body chiming musically. "Perhaps we're thinking about this wrong. Your technology and ours don't need to be the same. They just need to work together." Hana looked up. "What do you mean? Your shields are strong but use massive power. Ours are weaker but more efficient. What if we layered them? Your shields take the heavy hits, ours provide continuous coverage." It was brilliant. Within hours, Hana and the Coalition engineers created a hybrid system. It wasn't perfect, but it gave the defending fleet a fighting chance. Dr. Sung spent his time in the intelligence center, analyzing everything they knew about the Vralith offensive. Something bothered him. The enemy was bringing too many ships, more than needed just to conquer Coalition space. "They're looking for something," he told Commander Yoon during a briefing. "What could they be looking for?" Yoon asked. Sung pulled up old records from the human exodus. "Before we left, humanity was working on advanced quantum technology. The displacement drives that let us vanish weren't our only research. We were developing weapons, defensive systems, things that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. You think the Vralith want that technology? I think they're terrified we still have it," Sung replied. "And they're right to be scared because we do." Admiral Jin listened to this conversation with a grim expression. "If they discover the Gray Expanse, they'll attack our hidden colonies. Everything we've built for 3 centuries will be destroyed. Then we make sure they don't find it," Yoon said simply. At the Triton Belt, Mira's squadron had destroyed half the Vralith raiding force, but reinforcements arrived. A Vralith cruiser dropped out of quantum space, launching more fighters. The numbers went from bad to impossible. "All fighters, this is Red Leader," Mira transmitted. "Coalition pilots, begin evacuation procedures for the mining platforms. Get those civilians out." "What about the Vralith cruiser?" Sek asked. Mira checked her weapons. She had 1 heavy missile left, designed to penetrate thick armor. It wouldn't be enough to destroy the cruiser, but it might cripple it. "I'm going to give you time," she said calmly. Her second-in-command, a human pilot named Bo, understood immediately. "Captain, that's suicide." "No, it's buying time." "There's a difference. Now go help with the evacuation." Mira accelerated toward the cruiser. Every targeting system locked onto her. She jinked and dodged, moving through a storm of fire. Her shields collapsed, then her armor took hits. Red warning lights filled her cockpit. She launched the missile at point-blank range. It punched through the cruiser's shields and detonated inside the engine section. The massive ship shuddered, its power failing. It wouldn't explode, but it was dead in space. Mira's fighter was falling apart. She guided it toward an asteroid, knowing she wouldn't make it. At the last moment, she ejected. Her pod crashed into the asteroid's surface, bouncing twice before coming to rest. "Captain Mira is down," Bo shouted. "I'm going after her." "Negative." Mira's weak voice came over the radio. "Complete the evacuation." "That's an order." Bo and the other fighters held off the remaining Vralith ships while transport shuttles evacuated the mining platforms. Thousands of civilians escaped. When the last transport jumped away, Bo took one last look at the asteroid where Mira had crashed. "We're coming back for you, Captain," he promised. On Sanctum Prime, Sora received casualty reports from across the outer rim. The numbers were sobering. 3 human ships damaged. Dozens of fighters lost, hundreds of Coalition vessels destroyed, but they were holding the line. Barely. She brought the reports to Admiral Jin and Commander Yoon. The 2 men studied the data in silence. "The Vralith main fleet will be here in 2 days," Yoon said. "When they arrive, we won't be able to stop them with what we have." Jin nodded slowly. "Then it's time to call home." Hana was brought into the command center. She looked exhausted from working non-stop on ship repairs. "You need me?" We need you to do something that's never been done before, Jin said. We need you to create a stable quantum beacon powerful enough to reach the gray expanse. Hana's eyes widened. That's... Admiral, the power requirements alone would drain every reactor on this station. And even if we succeeded, opening a quantum gate that large could tear a hole in space-time. Can you do it? Yoon asked directly. She thought for a long moment. Maybe. If I use the hybrid shield technology as a stabilizer and root power through every ship in the fleet simultaneously, it'll be dangerous. If I make a mistake, we could create a black hole instead of a gate. But you can try? Yes, Hana said. I can try. Dr. Sung raised a concern. If we open a quantum gate, the Vralith will see it. They'll know where the gray expanse is located. They'll know it exists, Jin corrected. But quantum gates don't reveal destinations, only that someone is using one. And by the time they figure out where we're pulling reinforcements from, it'll be too late. Coalition Command wasn't happy about the plan. Speaker Voss expressed their concern directly. You're proposing to open a massive spatial anomaly above our capital world. The risks are extraordinary. So is the alternative, Yoon replied. Without reinforcements, Sanctum Prime falls. 3 billion people die. Those are the stakes. The Council reluctantly agreed. Hana and her team began the dangerous work of building the quantum beacon. They worked for 2 days straight, connecting reactors, calibrating frequencies, and praying their calculations were correct. Meanwhile, rescue teams finally reached the Triton Belt. They found Mira's emergency pod half buried in asteroid rock. She was unconscious, injured, but alive. When they brought her back to Sanctum Prime, the medical team was amazed she'd survived at all. Humans are tough, the Telvar doctor said with something like admiration. Bo visited her in the medical bay. You're insane, Captain. You know that, right? Mira's eyes fluttered open. Did everyone get out? Every civilian on those platforms. Not a single one left behind. She smiled weakly. Then it was worth it. On the second day, sensors detected the Vralith main fleet. It was massive, larger than any force seen in centuries. Lord Thane commanded the flagship, a dreadnought called the Desolation. It was equipped with a planet-killer weapon capable of burning entire worlds. They're here, Sora reported quietly. Commander Yoon looked at Hana. Are we ready? She stood at the quantum beacon controls, her hands shaking slightly. As ready as we'll ever be. If this works, we'll have reinforcements in minutes. If it doesn't... She didn't finish the sentence. Do it, Admiral Jin ordered. Hana activated the beacon. Power surged through every ship in the fleet, through the station, through systems that had never been designed to handle such loads. Space began to shimmer and twist. Coalition crews watched in terror and wonder as reality itself seemed to fold. The Vralith fleet detected the anomaly immediately. Lord Thane stared at his screens in disbelief. What are the humans doing? He demanded. The space above Sanctum Prime became hell. Hundreds of ships from both sides filled the void. Weapons fire creating a web of destruction that could be seen from the planet's surface. Lord Thane commanded the Desolation from his bridge, watching the tactical display with growing horror. How many human ships? He demanded. Still counting, my lord, his tactical officer replied. At least 300, possibly more still coming through the quantum gate. Thane's claws clenched. All forward ships formed defensive line. Prepare the planet-killer weapon. If we can't hold this system, we'll burn it as we leave. On the human flagship, Commander Yoon coordinated the attack with cold precision. Ships from the gray expanse had fresh crews, better weapons, and 3 centuries of tactical improvements. They fought with the efficiency of a machine. Focus fire on their battleship clusters, Yoon ordered. Break their formations, then hit them with everything we have. The human fleet moved in perfect coordination. They used tactics the Coalition had never seen, maneuvers that seemed suicidal but worked perfectly. Ships would accelerate directly at Vralith vessels, weapons blazing, then veer away at the last second after delivering devastating damage. A Vralith heavy cruiser found itself facing 3 human destroyers. The cruiser was larger, more powerful. It should have won easily, but the human ships worked together, one drawing fire while the others attacked from different angles. Within minutes, the cruiser was disabled, its crew dead or evacuating. Admiral Jin watched the battle from the command center on Sanctum Prime. Beside him, Dr. Sung recorded everything. Coalition officers stood nearby, seeing human warfare in its full terrifying glory. They fight like they don't care about dying, a Telvar officer whispered. No, Jin corrected. They fight like dying is acceptable if it accomplishes the mission. There's a difference. On the surface of Sanctum Prime, Vralith dropships penetrated the orbital defenses. Thousands of Vralith soldiers landed in the capital city, intent on capturing the government buildings. They expected easy victories against lightly armed coalition defenders. They did not expect Sora. She had been assigned to evacuation coordination, working in a command bunker beneath the city. When Vralith soldiers breached the surface defenses, she grabbed a rifle and joined a small squad of human Marines who were supposed to protect the civilians. "Ma'am, you should stay here," a young Marine named Han said. "I'm trained for combat just like you," Sora replied, checking her weapon. "Everyone fights. That's the human way." The Marines exchanged glances, then nodded. They moved into the city streets in small groups, using guerrilla tactics against the larger Vralith force. Sora proved surprisingly deadly, her calm communication skills translating into precise fire discipline. A Vralith soldier rounded a corner and found himself facing Sora's rifle. He had time to be surprised before she fired. The alien fell and his squadmates retreated in confusion. Humans weren't supposed to be on the ground. They were supposed to be in space fighting ship to ship. "They're everywhere," a Vralith squad leader reported. "Human soldiers appearing out of nowhere, hitting our flanks." The psychological impact was severe. Vralith troops were elite warriors, genetically enhanced for combat. But they had been raised on stories of human warfare, tales of soldiers who fought for days without rest, who turned impossible situations into victories through pure determination. Now those stories were coming to life around them. In space, Captain Mira had checked herself out of the medical bay against doctor's orders. She was bruised, bandaged, but alive, and there was still a battle to fight. She climbed back into a fighter, ignoring the pain in her ribs. "Captain, you're not cleared for flight," her squadron's medical officer protested. "Log it as a violation and court-martial me later," Mira replied. "Right now we have work to do." She launched with a fresh squadron heading directly for the Desolation. The massive dreadnought was charging its planet-killer weapon, energy readings climbing to dangerous levels. If it fired, everything on Sanctum Prime would die, billions of souls, human and alien alike. "All fighters, this is Red Leader," Mira transmitted. "We're going to stop that weapon from firing. Follow my lead and don't think too hard about the odds." Her squadron dove toward the Desolation. The ship's point defense weapons filled space with fire. Fighters exploded left and right, but the survivors kept coming. It was the kind of attack that required pilots to accept they probably wouldn't survive. Coalition pilots watched in awe and horror. "They're actually doing it," a Krell commander whispered. "They're attacking a dreadnought with fighters." Mira's targeting system locked onto the weapon's energy emitters. She fired her remaining missiles, watching them streak toward the massive ship. Other fighters did the same. Explosions blossomed across the Desolation's hull. "Direct hit on emitter 7, her wingman Bo reported. "But it's not enough." Mira looked at her damaged fighter. She was out of missiles, low on ammunition. The planet killer was still charging. She made a decision that felt inevitable. "Bo, take command of the squadron. Get them out of here." "Captain, what are you—" "That's an order," Mira snapped. Then her voice softened. "Tell everyone I was honored to fly with them." She cut communication and aimed her fighter directly at the planet killer's main emitter. She pushed her engines to maximum, accelerating past safe limits. The Desolation's point defense tried to stop her, but she was moving too fast, too erratically. At the last second, Mira ejected. Her fighter, now a guided missile, slammed into the planet killer emitter at incredible speed. The explosion was massive, tearing through the Desolation's forward sections. The weapon discharged prematurely, its energy venting into space instead of toward the planet. Lord Thane was thrown from his command chair as his ship shuddered. "Damage report." "Planet killer is destroyed, my lord. Forward shields are down. We're venting atmosphere on 12 decks." "Impossible," Thane breathed. "One fighter did this?" "One human fighter," his tactical officer corrected. Commander Yoon saw the opening Mira had created. "All ships concentrate fire on the Desolation. Board her if you can. I want that ship captured, not destroyed." Human boarding pods launched from nearby cruisers. They attached to the Desolation's hull like parasites, cutting through armor. Marines poured into the ship, fighting deck by deck. The Vralith defenders were elite troops, but they found themselves facing humans in close combat. The kind of fight humans excelled at. Yoon himself led a boarding team. Admiral Jin had tried to stop him. arguing that commanders shouldn't risk themselves like this. But Yoon had been adamant. "This is personal," he had said simply. Now he moved through the Desolation's corridors with his team, weapon ready. They fought with brutal efficiency, clearing rooms and advancing toward the bridge. Vralith soldiers fell back, shocked by the humans' relentless advance. On the planet below, Sora and her team held a critical intersection against a much larger Vralith force. They were running low on ammunition, exhausted, but they refused to retreat. "There are civilians in the buildings behind us," Sora said calmly, reloading her rifle. "We hold here or they die." Simple as that, the human Marines nodded. They had made peace with death long ago. If this was where they fell, so be it. But the Vralith would have to pay for every meter of ground. A coalition relief force finally arrived, fresh troops with heavy weapons. The Vralith force broke and retreated. A Telvar officer approached Sora, their crystalline body pulsing with awe. "You held this position for 3 hours against impossible odds." How Sora smiled tiredly. "Because someone had to. And because we're human. We're too stubborn to know when we're beaten." Back in space, Dr. Sung made a discovery in the Intelligence Center. "Commander Yoon, I've found what the Vralith were searching for. They're looking for our research on quantum displacement technology. They have intelligence that suggests we left research stations in this sector before the Exodus." Admiral Jin heard this transmission and made a decision. "Yoon, capture Lord Thane if you can. We need him alive to send a message." On the Desolation, Yoon's team reached the bridge. They breached the door with explosive charges and stormed in. Lord Thane stood at the center of the bridge, weapon raised. A brief firefight erupted, but the Vralith defenders were quickly overwhelmed. Thane found himself facing Commander Yoon, both of them armed but neither firing. "You're Yoon," Thane said, "the one who led the return." "I am." "Then kill me and be done with it." "I won't surrender to your kind." Yoon lowered his weapon slightly. "I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to let you live so you can deliver a message to your dominion. Humanity has returned. We remember what your people did to us. And if you ever threaten innocent civilizations again, we will end you. Not defeat you. Not push you back. End you completely, do you understand?" Thane looked into Yoon's eyes and saw something that made him truly afraid. This wasn't anger or hatred. This was cold calculation, the promise of genocide delivered with calm certainty. "I understand," Thane whispered. The battle ended within the hour. The Vralith fleet, broken and demoralized, retreated. They left behind destroyed ships, thousands of prisoners, and the wreckage of their pride. The Desolation became a human trophy, a symbol of their victory. On Sanctum Prime, civilians emerged from shelters to see human soldiers standing guard. The city was damaged but intact. 3 weeks after the battle, Sanctum Prime was healing. Repair crews worked around the clock to fix damaged buildings. Memorial services honored the dead from dozens of species. And everywhere, humans walked among aliens who no longer saw them as legends but as real people. Commander Yoon stood in front of the Coalition High Council once again. But this time the atmosphere was different. The council members looked at him with respect mixed with caution. They had seen what humans could do when pushed to fight. "Commander Yoon, the council has deliberated on humanity's request to rejoin galactic society," Speaker Voss said. Their crystalline body pulsed with diplomatic blue colors. "We have decided to accept with certain conditions." "What conditions?" Yoon asked. "First, that humanity shares its military technology with coalition forces. Second, that human forces integrate with coalition command structures rather than operating independently. And third, that humanity reveals the location of the Gray Expanse and its hidden colonies." Yoon shook his head. "The first two we can agree to with some modifications. The third is non-negotiable. The Gray Expanse remains secret for the safety of both our people and yours. If the Vralith discover where our main population lives, they'll attack with everything they have." A Nethan counselor floated forward, their gas forms swirling with agitation. "How can we trust you if you keep secrets?" "Because keeping some secrets is what prevents another war," Dr. Sung interjected from beside Yoon. "The Vralith retreated because they don't know our full strength. They don't know where our shipyards are, where our families live, where our real fleet is based. That uncertainty keeps them cautious. If we reveal everything, we lose our strategic advantage." Admiral Jin joined the discussion. "We're willing to share technology, tactics, and training. We'll integrate our forces with yours and fight side by side. But the location of our home must remain secret for now. Perhaps in time, when trust is fully established, we can reconsider." After hours of negotiation, the Council agreed. Humanity would rejoin the galactic community, but on terms that protected both sides. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Captain Mira recovered from her injuries slowly. She had ejected twice in 3 weeks, something most pilots never did even once in their entire careers. The doctors told her she needed to stop volunteering for suicide. Missions, I'll try, she said with a smile that suggested she wouldn't. She was given a new assignment, training coalition pilots in human combat tactics. The first day she stood before a mixed class of Krell, Telvar, and Nethan pilots. They looked at her with a mixture of awe and nervousness. I know what you've heard, Mira began. That humans are crazy, that we take stupid risks, that we fight without caring if we live or die. Some of that is true, but here's what you need to understand. We don't fight carelessly. We fight with full commitment. When we enter combat, we accept that death is possible. That acceptance frees us to focus completely on the mission. A young Krell pilot raised her foreleg. How do you overcome fear? We don't, Mira replied honestly. Fear is useful. It keeps you alert. But we don't let fear make our decisions. We feel it, acknowledge it, and then do what needs to be done anyway. That's not bravery. That's discipline. The class was silent, absorbing this. They had always thought humans were fearless. Learning that humans were actually afraid made them somehow more impressive. Engineer Hana worked with coalition scientists to establish technology exchange programs. She discovered that while human technology was more robust and simple, coalition technology was often more elegant and efficient. By combining approaches, they created hybrid systems superior to either alone. This is what we should have been doing all along, a Telvar engineer said while examining a joint project. Our civilizations are stronger together. Yes, Hana agreed. But sometimes it takes a war to show us that. Sora was offered the position of Earth's first ambassador to the coalition. She accepted, though the title was somewhat ironic since Earth was still hidden in the gray expanse. She became the face of humanity to the galaxy, appearing at diplomatic functions and speaking at universities. During one speech at a prestigious Krell academy, a student asked her the question everyone wondered. Are humans dangerous? Sora thought carefully before answering. Yes, we are very dangerous. But so is a guard dog. The question isn't whether we're dangerous. The question is who we choose to protect and who we choose to fight. We've made our choice. We protect the innocent and fight those who threaten them. If that makes us dangerous, then we're dangerous for the right reasons. The answer satisfied most people, though some species remained wary. Humanity's reputation as legendary warriors was well earned, and that made them powerful but also frightening. Lord Thane returned to Vralith space with the remnants of his fleet. He delivered Commander Yoon's message to the Dominion Supreme Commander. The reaction was not what he expected. So humanity threatens us with extinction if we continue our expansion, the Supreme Commander mused. And you believe them? I looked into their commander's eyes, Thane replied. He wasn't bluffing. If we attack the coalition again, they will destroy us, all of us. They have the capability and the will. The Supreme Commander considered this. Then we must become stronger. We must find their hidden colonies and strike first. That's exactly what they expect us to try, Thane warned. It's a trap. They want us to waste resources searching for them, while they strengthen their alliance with the coalition. What do you suggest? We wait, we rebuild, we study them, and we find another way to achieve our goals. One that doesn't put us in direct conflict with humanity. It was a humiliating strategy for a proud species, but it was realistic. The Vralith Dominion began a period of internal consolidation, their expansionist ambitions curtailed by the memory of human warships. Dr. Sung compiled his observations into a report that became required reading at coalition military academies. In it, he analyzed why humans fought differently than other species. Humans evolved on a difficult world, he wrote. They were neither the fastest nor the strongest species on their planet. They survived through cooperation, tool use, and adaptability. When faced with impossible odds, most species give up. Humans find another way. This trait makes them exceptional warriors, but also exceptional allies. The report concluded with a warning. Humanity has rejoined the galaxy. They bring strength, courage, and tactical brilliance, but they also bring violence, risk-taking, and a capacity for destruction that must be respected. The galaxy is safer with humans as allies than as enemies. 6 months after the Battle of Sanctum Prime, a memorial was unveiled on the planet's surface. It honored all who died in the battle: Human, Krell, Telvar, Nethin, and others. Commander Yoon attended the ceremony along with Admiral Jin and the entire human command staff. "We lost good people here," Yoon said during his speech. "They died protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. That's the highest calling any warrior can answer. We honor them by continuing their work, building a galaxy where such sacrifices become less necessary." After the ceremony, Yoon walked through the memorial gardens with Admiral Jin. The old man was retiring, planning to return to the gray expanse to spend time with his family. "You did well," Jin said. "You brought us home." "We brought us home," Yoon corrected. "All of us together. This was never about one person." "What will you do now?" Jin asked. Yoon looked at the sky where human and coalition ships flew in joint patrols. "Keep building. Keep training. Make sure that if another threat emerges, we're ready, but also try to make sure that our presence prevents threats from emerging in the first place. Peace through strength. Peace through demonstrated capability," Yoon replied. "The galaxy needs to know that aggression has consequences, but they also need to know that cooperation has benefits. We can be both the sword and the shield." Captain Mira continued her work with coalition pilots. She watched them improve, learning to push past their limitations. Some would never match human capabilities. Physiology was physiology. But they learned human mindset. They learned to fight smarter, to take calculated risks, to turn disadvantages into advantages. One day, a Krell pilot executed a perfect attack run against a practice target, using tactics that would have been impossible for him 6 months earlier. Mira felt genuine pride. "You're thinking like a human now," she told him. "Is that good?" he asked. "It's good if you want to survive the next war, and there will be a next war eventually. There always is." Engineer Hana discovered that she enjoyed teaching. She took on apprentices from different species, sharing human engineering philosophy. Her students learned to value simplicity and reliability over elegance. They learned that the best solution was the one that worked when everything else failed. "My professor at the academy said human engineering was crude," a Telvar student mentioned once. Hana smiled. "It is crude. But crude things don't break easily. In a war, you want crude over elegant any day." Sora's work as ambassador kept her busy. She negotiated trade agreements, resolved disputes, and slowly built trust between humanity and other species. It was slow, difficult work. Many aliens remained suspicious of human intentions. "Why did you really come back?" a Nethin diplomat asked her during one difficult negotiation.